Live from Hallandale Beach, it's Holistic Strides. Hey now, everybody. Welcome to Holistic Strides, a Start With Your Feet production. We are coming to you live on tape from my office in sunny Hallandale Beach, Florida. My name is Dr. Richard J. Rimler, otherwise known as Doc Rick, and I am one of a few holistic podiatrists in the country. I am your host of Holistic Strides, a talk show devoted to taking small but powerful steps down a path to a more holistic lifestyle with an emphasis on foot health and the start with your feet approach to wellness. This includes unique advice on supportive shoes, orthotics, exercise via interval training, organic nutrition, vitamins and supplements, and stress management. So, why should you watch or listen to my show? The short answer is to achieve better health through self empowerment with the understanding that it all starts with your feet. The idea is to add one holistic principle regularly to your life and gradually transform yourself to better health. Just take it one step at a time. I can guide you since I have undergone the same transformation. Therefore, I walk the walk. Today, I will be talking about ingrown toenails. Before we get to that, I want to go over what I feel is the most important thing that you can do for your health besides not smoking cigarettes: interval training. So, start by picking your preferred mode of exercise. It could be walking, running, using an exercise bike, treadmill, doing jumping jacks, or swimming. Try to do this close to home for convenience. Also, try doing it in the morning since it only takes 10 to 12 minutes. That way you can get it in before work or school. Here is my personal prescription for interval training. Start off with a 20-second fast velocity, followed by a 1-minute slow recovery speed, and do this for 6 intervals. In my case, I go out to the street in front of my house and I sprint for 20 seconds. Then, after the recovery portion of roughly 1 minute of slow walking, I reverse my direction and sprint for 20 seconds once again for the next interval. After doing 6 intervals at 20 seconds fast speed, I then switch to a 15-second fast velocity, followed by the same 1-minute slow recovery speed, and do this for 3 intervals. Guess what? You are now done with your workout. The take home point is that the final 3 intervals must be done at a faster speed to reap the health benefits, which are substantial. Those benefits include strengthening your lungs and your heart, aiding in weight loss by inducing a 12-hour fat afterburn, better oxygenation to your cells, and most notably, being anti-aging. Think of it as your own personal stem cell treatment given to you by yourself. I have been personally doing this technique since I first heard about it when I was age 50, and I think that this is one of the main reasons for my continued good health into my 60s. By the way, you can access a free ebook download about interval training, including my prescription, by going to my website, startwithyourfeet.com, and you will find it in the blog section. I invite everyone to incorporate interval training into your schedule and kickstart your path to wellness. Now, let's get to our main topic today, which is the topic of ingrown toenails. So, everybody has an ingrown toenail, most likely. I find that it's very rare that I come across a patient that doesn't have at least one ingrown toenail. So, whether you know it or not, most people have at least one ingrown toenail. Some causes include tight shoes, excessive foot motion inside the shoe, improper cutting, or having a bony spur underneath the nail in the center. Here are some pointers. If you're cutting your nails yourself, you want to cut them straight across, but you want to slightly round them in the corners. because otherwise you will have 2 points on the sides of each nail, and those points can puncture through the skin and cause pain and an infection. So it needs to be rounded. It also needs to be, you have to make sure that you get to the bottom of the nail also. So you don't want to use a little hand nail clipper that goes like that. You want something that looks more like a scissor and something with a long, pointy uh, tip to it so you can get into the corners. You also want to free up the nail before you cut it. So that is why I recommend using it's a tool called a curette. It looks like a little ice cream scooper, and you can get it at Amazon or on beauty supply stores. So you want to have a nail clipper that has a pointy tip and a curette so that you can free up the nail from the skin before you cut it. That way you won't cause pain or bleeding when you cut the nail. It's also a good idea if you have an ingrown nail to apply a nail softener to it daily. So I usually start my patients out on Vaseline jelly or coconut oil or cocoa butter or shea butter. Do that regularly after showering or in the evening. Put a sock on if you have to. Start doing that regularly to soften up the nail so that it's not adhering to the skin. If that doesn't do a good enough job, there are things that are a little fancier that can be used instead of the over-the-counter things. So there are some prescriptions and non-prescriptions that work a little bit better to do that. One is urea cream, which is made from urea, 20%, 40%. There's also a product called Carousel that has salicylic acid in it in a small dose, in a small amount. So that helps to loosen the nail to the skin. So those are two good items that can be done regularly, applied to the nail to keep it soft between the nail and the skin. Another thing that I find is that if you are using nail polish, for the ladies out there using nail polish, it's okay to use nail polish as long as it's not on the side of the nail. So you can have it on the top of the nail, covering the majority of the nail, but don't put it along the side. Of course, that nail polish, that acrylic, makes the nail harder, so it makes it more weaponized. It also causes it to stick to the skin. So when you're trying to take it away from the skin and cut it back a little, it's going to be adhering to the skin, and that's going to create a difficult challenge to try to cut it back without causing any bleeding, which can then lead to an infection. Another thing to know is the length of your shoes. If you are wearing loafers or slippers or shoes that are too short, or what you think is a properly fitted shoe that has a counter, which is but the lower portion of the heel, if that part is flimsy, then your foot's going to go forward. All of these things will cause a jamming of the front part of your foot into the front of the shoe, and that will exacerbate an ingrown toenail. So make sure you have about an inch from your longest toe to the end of the shoe, which is the width of a thumb. And you want to see the shoe on the other side of your thumb from your longest toe, which might be your first, second, or third toe. Another thing as it regards to motion that can be very helpful with orthotics, be very helpful, is to wear an orthotic. So if you have a flat foot, your foot's moving a lot, wearing an orthotic inside your shoe will cut down on that motion and will potentially cut down on the ingrown toenail being exacerbated by the shoe, as long as the orthotic is potentially a 3/4 length orthotic and as long as the shoe is the proper size. So those are some things that will, an orthotic is integral to reducing motion of the foot, along with a laced shoe that has a firm back behind the heel. The lower heel needs to be firm of every shoe to cut down on motion and to keep you from going forward in the shoe. So there are things to do if you are constantly getting ingrown toenails that are painful. Obviously, the first thing to do is to go to a podiatrist regularly, whether it's once a month, once every 6 weeks, once every 2 months. You want to do that regularly and prevent pain and infections. If you are constantly getting infections that are happening closer to the cuticle, that is sometimes time to consider a permanent surgical correction. Most podiatrists will use a chemical. They will make the toe anesthetized. They will make it numb with xylocaine. They will take the entire side of the nail out all the way to where it grows from under the cuticle. And then they will usually apply a chemical. Phenol is something that's used. Sodium hydroxide is something that's used to cauterize the part where the nail grows from. Then the nail will not grow out on the side after that. And then that particular side should not be a problem going forward. So that is something that can be considered if you are constantly getting infections that are in the base of the nail closer to the cuticle. And also, it is something that can be done if you're having to go to the podiatrist once a month and you cannot get relief. That is something that can be done. It's a permanent correction, and it's a very common procedure, usually done in the office, and gets very, very good results on that. So those are some options. You have the conservative option of taking care of the nail regularly yourself or with a podiatrist. And then if all else fails, you can consider the surgical option. If you're a diabetic, though, using the chemical is contraindicated. So instead of using a chemical, the part where the nail grows from, the nail matrix is actually surgically removed with either a blade or a laser to prevent the nail from returning in that side. So there are options for people that have ingrown toenails, and just the bottom line with that is you want to stay on top of it, because what starts as a little pain with an ingrown toenail will ultimately turn into an infection. And that infection, if left untreated and if pus then forms, believe it or not, that can get to the bone, and then that's a whole different ball game. Then you're talking about hospitalization, possible bone surgery, possible 6 weeks of intravenous antibiotics and or oral antibiotics. And that's not something that anybody should have in regards to an ingrown toenail sequela. So if you stay on top of it, then this should never be a problem that leads to something like that. One thing that I would like to say is that if somebody has neuropathy and they lose the ability to feel pain in their foot, then of course you have to be using your eyes, whether it's your eyes or somebody else's eyes, always looking at your feet to look for any kind of infection, ulceration. And when it comes to an ingrown toenail, you would see a redness developing next to the side of the nail, possibly a blister, possibly swelling, possibly cellulitis, which is a soft tissue infection that starts to progress back towards the foot. All of these things are signs. So you might not feel the pain, but if you see something like that, then you need to get to the podiatrist or urgent care or to the emergency room as soon as possible and take care of that before it becomes a bad potential situation where the bone can actually get infected. So in conclusion, ingrown toenails are a very common foot problem. Without medical contraindications, such as diabetes, poor circulation, or neuropathy, you can potentially treat it yourself if you are of good health. If you are unable to properly care for your ingrown toenail, then obviously you want to go to a podiatrist. That's the person who you want to go to for regular care of your ingrown toenails. So everyone likes to make jokes about it, but it can be a serious and painful thing. And it is, if you stay on top of it, it does not have to be the end of the world. There are some pearls that you need to know, such as how to cut the nail properly, putting some softeners on, avoiding nail polish on the side, wearing shoes that are the proper length. One more point about shoes is that that's why I recommend wearing an open toe sandal that goes across the top of the foot, and or having a strap behind the heel when you are in the house rather than a slipper. A slipper inherently is going to be too short, and that's going to push on the front part of your foot more, and that will lead to a ingrown toenail problem potentially as well. So you want to make sure the shoe is not pushing the nail down, accelerating that whole process. So if you are, if you have the ability to, you can wear a regular open toe shoe. If you are older, if you need more stability, if you have neuropathy, then definitely get one that's more of like a hiking sandal, open toe, coming across the top with a strap behind the foot to give more stability. Well, it looks like we are out of here for today. I hope you enjoyed the show and learned something new. I want to thank all of my striders for your support. I hope that you guys can incorporate today's topic into your lifestyle gradually over the next month to then make it a habit. Email me at docrick@startwithyourfeet.com if you have any particular topics you would like me to talk about on future shows. Until next time, start thinking outside the box in your approach to overall health by looking to your feet as a starting point. Walk strong and live long, my friends. See you next time on Holistic Strides.